Good day, everyone. My name is Arvin Inadlaw. Today, we're gonna tackle all about sexual self. So, from the word sexual, which is comes in my mind, sex. Sexual self is refers to the totality of oneself as a sexual being, including a negative concept and feelings. Why is it is important of sexual self? Sexuality is an important self identity and not able um, to express. It can harm our self-esteem and overall mental health. Coming out can lead to acceptance and support for some people, but this isn't always the case. Secondary six characteristics. There are two characteristic of six characteristic. First is primary characteristic and second is second characteristic. Um, Primary characteristic is a physical characteristic that are present at birth or present at birth, and secondary characteristic developed during onset of puberty, or shall we say puberty. Puberty is a stage in human development when the reproductive organs fully mature and become functional and perform their reproductive capabilities. So secondary six characteristic of male. Uh, During our adolescence, there will be in here there will be mustache, muscular pectorals. You develop your muscle like this, and narrow hips here, hips. Therefore, voice like oh, like you change your voice into big, like like that, and overall last fat issue. Characteristic of female. Uh, in female, there will be many changes during the adolescence. First is the in here there will be many grown, and in the lower part, private part of the girls, and also their voice will change, and their breast will be developed also. It will be bigger than bigger. Hormones is a natural substance that produce in a body. Um, Estrogen promotes female reproductive capacity, and secondary sex characteristic. Uh, the production of female sex hormones follows a cyclical pattern on an approximately in 28 days. The greatest production occurs during uh, ovulation period when an egg is released from the ovaries. Male hormones. Testosterone produced in the testes, and a testis controlled in brain called pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is a pea-sized endocrine gland at the base of your brain, behind the bridge of your nose, and directly below your hypothalamus. It sits in an indent in the bone called the cilia turcica. The pituitary gland is one of eight interrelated major endocrine glands. Hypothalamus is a gland in your brain that controls your hormones system. Uh, it releases hormones to another part of your brain called the pituitary gland, which, which sends hormones out to your different organs.
Good day everyone, my name is Jacob Glonigo and today I will be discussing the erogenous zone. My source for this discussion are Journal of Lara Meister et al. Published last June 2020, a journal written by Eunice et al. Published last March 2016, an article written by Dr. Kemeny Richa about sexual and reproductive health published last April 2021. Okay, let's start. Erogenous comes from the Greek word eros, meaning love, and genuous, meaning producing an erogenous zone is any body area with high tended sensitivity that can produce sexual arousal when stimulated. One theory behind these sensitive areas is that they have nerve endings and receptors that are more sensitive to light touch or gentle tickling. Given the interpersonal interactions of sexual activity, it's not surprising that you may find the looking at or touching your partner's erogenous zones maybe as much of a turn on as being touched yourself. Also, some erogenous zones react more to a tickle or light touch, where areas others are more sensitive to erogenous zone. Okay, erogenous zone map. Now that you know what an erogenous zone is, you may be wondering where you can find them. These sensitive areas can be divided into genital versus extragenital erogenous zones. While erogenous zones can differ from person to person, these are the most common erogenous zones in men and women. Next, the female erogenous zones. The main genital erogenous zones for women are the G-spot and the vulva, which includes clitoris, vaginal opening, and outer and inner vaginal, lips or labia. Stimulation of this area by masturbation, a partner's touch, sex, toys, or their mean often leads to sexual arousal, which involves increased blood flow and nerve sensitivity. Extragenital erogenous zones are parts of the body that elicit a sexual response even though they may be far from the genital area. Examples are breast or nipples, mouth or lips, nape or back of the neck, buttocks, inner thigh, lower abdomen or public area, wrist, scalp, behind the knees, perineum, the space between the anus and vaginal, lower back. Next is the male erogenous zones. Erogenous zones are not just for women. The main genital erogenous zones for men include the penis, especially the glans or head of the penis, and frenulum, band of skin that attach the foreskin to the shaft of the penis, and scrotum. Stimulation of these areas often leads orgasms. However, outside the genital erogenous zones, men share many of same erogenous zone as women. Men can enjoy stimulation that doesn't focus just on the penis. Some common extragenital male erogenous zones include mouth or lips, inner thigh, nape or back of the neck, nipples, perineum, the area between the anus and scrotum, or lower abdomen or public area, ears, buttocks, scalps, stomach, and lower back. So that's it for the erogenous zone of men. Thank you.
Good day, sir. Good day, everyone. My name is Ernel Jairo Carion, and I'm discussing about understanding the human sexual response. The sexual response cycle has four phases: excitement, platinum, and orgasms, and resolution. Both men and women experience these phases, although the timing usually is different. For example, it is unlikely that both partners will reach orgasms at the same time. Understanding the sexual response, each person has unique sexual response experience which are directly influenced by thoughts, fantasies, abilities, real life experience, stage of life, relationships, medication, physically and emotion, wellness. No two people are the same in how they responded sexually, therefore it is really important to know yourself and your body well, so you can be aware and comfortable as possible with your process. This knowledge can help enhance your sexual experience. A person may not be aware of every physical change that happens during the sexual response. There are a number of theories about sexual response cycles. Some older Masters and Johnson, and some Kaplan, and some gender specific. Whipple and brands. It's essential to recognize that each person is individual in their expression and experience of sexual response. We we provide this basic information. You can be more educated and empowered about your sexuality. Excitement, sexual arousal. Arousal is the next part of sexual pleasure. When a person is becoming sexually excited, sexually arousal usually begins in the brain. The brain sends messages throughout the body to prepare us for sex. These arousal can be stimulated by thought, fantasy, conversation, smell, touch, taste, sound, sight, etc. There is huge diversity in what a person finds sexually exciting, and this may vary from person to person as influenced by culture, age, stages, relationships, cycles, etc. Sexual arousal may occur suddenly, entirely, and may slow progressions. Each person is unique in their experience of sexual resolution. In a stage of arousal is called resolution. During the resolution period is a relaxation of muscle as well. Physiological will occur. The blood has a move into a general will drain out slowly. The body returns to the way it was before sexual arousal. Resolution happens whenever or not someone experiences an orgasm. When a person with a penis enters the resolution phase, they lose their erection and experience what is called the refractory period. This is period time that it takes a person with a penis to experience another erection. During the refractory period usually increase, and some of people are doing this sexual response to people. Desire. Sexual desire is often defined as desire at or want to experience sexual feelings or activities, intimacy or gratification without or with our partners. There are many influences on sexual desires, and it's achieved differently for different people, but generally it involves Platia contrary to the world. A player phase sexual response is not leaving the sexual excitement. It actually continues to grow. This phase may last reveal seconds to minutes. A person may feel physical and emotional excitement and have physical sensations of sensitivity, warmth, and even appear flush. This phase can take a person to a level, altered consciousness. It's often referred to as the heat of moment of those of passion. It can feel incredibly intoxicating and difficult to make intentional decisions. At this point, in the response cycle, this is why it's recommended to have safer sex and a birth control method in use already. It may be difficult to ensure are being used as well as they need to be. And the stage of sexual occurs is called during the resolution period. Our relaxation muscles will
I'm Jerby Lagunsad. I'm reporting the basic biology of sexual behavior. Both typical and atypical sexual behavior can be understood in terms of developmental studies. Both nature and nurture are needed to explain the entire range of human sexual behavior, and sexual therapies also require attention to both of these elements. Sexual behavior begins before puberty, but the advent of puberty brings a greater interest in sex and greater range of sexual exploration than seen in childhood. Even though many people think that sex is simply natural and hence should be easy, many people have sexual problems. Fortunately, many of these can be overcome with accurate information about sex therapy. Through evolutionary process, numerous physiological structures have emerged that usually make sexual behavior pleasurable and easy to do. Though sexual pain and problems are not uncommon, the thoughts, emotion, and physiology responses involved in sexual behavior are mediated by the brain and spinal cord, the limbic system, which encircles the upper end of the spinal cord below the cortical hemispheres in the brain, plays a crucial role in regulating emotions and sexual behaviors. Stimulations of part of the limbic. They are also by social and cultural factors. Countless mixes of social and cultural inputs, mediated by the brain at conscious and unconscious levels, make human sexuality far more complex than the more basic sexual activities seen in the other species. Before the development of reliable, modern contraceptive techniques, sexual behavior was closely linked with reproduction in most societies, whereas people in many parts of the world attempted to unlock sex from pregnancy by using potions, magic incantations, and pessaries. Most had little success. Given the close connection between sex and procreation, most cultures surrounded sexuality with rituals and morals that demanded and or satisfied family commitments. Even though many people fail to follow those rules in their entirety. In the last 4 decades, the development of abortion techniques has allowed increasing numbers of people to avoid recreational sex and explore recreational sex. This adds to the already considerable variability within and among cultures in their sexual values and practices. In order to appreciate the vast complexity of human sexual behavior, let us begin with the most basic elements of sexual behavior and then repeatedly add layers of extra information. One of the human brain's main functions is to process learning, and we will see how Pavlovian, operant, and social learning all add to and complicate sexual behavior and experience. The evidence shows that gonadal steroid hormones play a powerful role in facilitating sexual behaviors. In both males and females, males require the presence of testosterone and estrogen, whereas females require estrogen plus progesterone. The medial prepubic area and the ventral hypothalamus are the primary brain regions involved in modulating sexual behavior. That's all po. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. So, by the way, I'm GB Alcantin, and today I will be discussing about the understanding the chemistry of loss, love, and attachment. So, according to anthropologist Helen Fisher, there are 3 stages of falling in love, and each stages has a different set of brain chemicals run the show. And these stages are lust, attraction, and love. So each stage have specific brain chemicals run, or what we call it an active. So in this video, this is one of our highlight that we will talk about. So here it goes. First is lust. So what is lust? So lust is driven by the desire for sexual gratification. The evolutionary basis for this is from people's need to reproduce or need shared among all living things. So if we say lust, the idea of this is to look for what it can get, or not what it can give. So in other words, so we define lust more on selfishness on its form. Now, when people are in the stage of lust, they feel physically attracted and drawn to their sides of affection. So, to make clear things, there are elements that make things exciting. So, if lust will work on us, one of the common objectives is sexually attracted. So that's what we say when it comes to lust. It's more in sexual gratification, or specifically sexual practices. And next is attraction. So attraction is a characteristics that causes pleasure or interest by appealing to a person's desire or taste, and causes one to be drawn to the other. So, by this stage, a person may begin to be obsessed about their object of affection and crave for his presence. So, a person may don't feel like sleeping or eating. People can certainly lust for someone they are attracted to, and vice versa, one can happen without the others. And In addition, dopamine is the main player in the brain's reward pathway. So, through dopamine, when it is released, people feel good. So, in this case, these things spending time with loved ones with high levels of dopamine. So, to sum up with that, um, attraction seems to lead to a reduction in serotonin, a hormone that is involved in appetite and mood. So, in addition, it is a period of time during which couple are infatuated and pursue their relationship. And the energy and attention is focused in one particular person. And to end with this, the last one is attachment. So, attachment, this stage involves wanting to make a more lasting commitment to your loved one. All the goals are dedicated to the object of affection being a part of person's life, while comparing to lust and attraction are pretty much exclusive to romantic entanglements, while attachment mediates friendships, parent-infant bonding, social conjugality, and many other intimacies as well. So, in other words, attachment involves a desire to have a long-lasting commitment with your significant others. So, in attachment, the true primary hormones here appear to be oxytocin and vasopressin, which creates the desire to bond, affiliate with, nurture your partner. So, in today's lesson, understanding the science of lust, attraction, and attachment can help a person develop more realistic experience to their relationships.
Good day, everyone. I'm Ian Rodrigo Tigaliantes, and I'm going to discuss about the diversity of sexual behavior, sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. Gender and sexual diversity, or simply known as sexual diversity, refers to diversities of sex, characteristics, sexual orientations, and gender identities, without the need to specify each identity's behavior or characteristics that form the plurality. When we say classifications, this describes sexual orientations: heterosexual, homosexual, and bisexual. Gender identity: transgender or cisgender, and related minorities, intersex. LGBT or LGBTI, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, people, sometimes intersexual people. The rainbow flag is a symbol of growing improvement to accept, celebrate, and embrace sexual diversity, and to support efforts that aims to end discrimination. On the other hand, gender identity is usually assigned at birth on visible genitals. For most people, their assigned sex does not match their gender expression and experience. Lastly, sexuality and gender can be complex and dynamic. It's not as clear-cut as some people might think, and covers a broad spectrum. Understanding the sexual feeling and attraction we have towards others, and gender identity with an express is personal journey. Sexuality is an essential and nature characteristic of people that begins in early childhood. Many sexual and gender minority children and teens face challenges throughout their lives. Fear about how family and friends may react, as well as fear of bullying, harassment, discrimination, and prejudice may stop them from publicity. Identifying as a sexual or gender minority, supportive family, schools, and communities are important. If LGBTQ2S plus children and teens are to do well in school and in life.
Good morning, and we will be talking about STDs, or sexually transmitted disease, also known as sexually transmitted infections, or STIs, are very common. Millions of new infections occur every year in the United States. STDs pass from one person to another through vaginal, oral, and anal sex. There are dozens of STDs. Some STDs, such as syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia, are spread mainly by sexual contact. Other diseases, including Zika and Ebola, can be spread sexually but are more often spread through ways other than sex. What are the different types of STDs? Summary: chlamydia, genital herpes, gonorrhea, HIV or AIDS, HPV, public lice, syphilis, trichomoniasis. What causes sexually transmitted disease, or STDs? STDs can be caused by bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Who is affected by sexually transmitted disease? Most STDs affect both men and women, but many cases the health problem they cause can more severe for women. If a pregnant woman has an STD, it can cause serious health problem for the baby. STDs don't always cause symptoms or may only cause mild symptoms, so it is possible to have an infection and not know it, but you can still pass it into others. If there are symptoms, they could include unusual discharge from penis or vagina, sores or warts on the genital area, painful or frequent urination, itching and redness in the genital area, blisters or sores in or around the mouth, abnormal vaginal odor, anal itching, soreness or bleeding, abdominal pain, fever. How are sexually transmitted disease diagnosed? If you are sexually active, you should talk to your healthcare provider about your risk for STDs and whether you need to be tested. This is especially important since many STDs don't usually cause symptoms. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Brian Compuesto, and my topic is natural and artificial methods of contraception. Natural methods of contraception. First is abstinence. However, most people find it difficult to comply with abstinence, so only few of them use this method. Next is calendar method. The process in calculating for the woman's safe days is achieved when the woman records her menstrual cycle for 6 months. She subtracts 18 from the shortest cycle, and the difference is the first fertile day. She also subtracts 11 from the longest cycle, and this becomes the last fertile day. Starting from the first fertile day until the last day, the woman should avoid coitus to avoid conception. It has an ideal failure rate of 5%, but when used, it has a typical failure rate of 25%. Next is basal body temperature. The woman must take her temperature early every morning before any activity. And if she notices that there is a slight decrease and an increase in her temperature, this is a sign that she has ovulated. The woman must abstain from coitus from the next 3 days. The BBT method has an ideal failure rate of 9% and has a typical use failure rate of 25%. Next is cervical mucus method. The fertile days of a woman according to this method is as long as the cervical mucus is copious and watery and a day after it. Therefore, she must avoid coitus during these days. When used, typically, it has a failure rate of 25%. Next is symptothermal method. She abstains from coitus 3 days after a rise in her temperature or the 4th day after the peak of mucus change. Symptothermal method has an ideal failure rate of 2%. Ovulation detection. The kit is 98 to 99% accurate and is fast becoming the method choice by women. Next is lactation amenorrhea method. It is also best to advise the woman that after 3 months of exclusive breastfeeding, she must make plans of choosing another method of contraception. Lastly is coitus interruptus. The disadvantage of this method is the pre-ejaculation fluid that contains a few spermatozoa that may cause fertilization. Coitus interruptus is only 75% effective because of this. Artificial methods of contraception. First is oral contraceptives. If the woman has missed taking the pill for more than 1 day, she and her partner must consider an alternative contraception to avoid ovulation. Side effects for OCs are nausea, weight gain, headache, breast tenderness, breakthrough bleeding, vaginal infections, mild hypertension, and depression. Contraindications of oral contraceptives are breastfeeding age of 35 years and above, cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, smoking, diabetes, and cirrhosis. Next is transdermal patch. Patches can be worn while bathing or swimming, but when the woman notices that the patch is loose, she should immediately replace the patch. If the patch has been loose for less than 24 hours, the woman need not use an alternative form of contraceptive, but if she is not sure of how long the patch has been loose, she should replace it and start with a new week cycle and also use an additional contraceptive method. Next is vaginal ring. The woman becomes fertile as soon as the ring is removed. The vaginal ring has the same effectivity rate as the oral contraceptives. Next is subdermal implants. It is effective for 3 to 5 years. Subdermal implants have a failure rate of 1%. Next is hormonal injections. It has an effectiveness of almost 100%, making it one of the most popular choices for birth control. Advise to the woman to ingest an adequate amount of calcium in her diet as there is a risk for decrease of bone mineral density and to engage in weight-bearing exercises. Next is intrauterine device. The device contains progesterone and is effective for 5 to 7 years. A woman with IUD is advised to check the flow of her menstruation every month and the IUD string, and also to have a pelvic examination yearly. Next is chemical barriers. These chemical barriers cannot prevent sexually transmitted infections, however, they can be bought without any prescription. The ideal fail rate of these chemical barriers is 80%. Next is diaphragm. The diaphragm should be fitted only by the physician and should remain in place for 6 hours after coitus. It can be left in place for not more than 24 hours to avoid inflammation or irritation. Next is cervical cup. It is shaped like a thimble with a thin rim and could stay in place for not more than 48 hours. Next is male condoms. Male condoms have an ideal fail rate of 2% and a typical fail rate of 15% due to a break in the steth's integrity or spilling. After sexual intercourse, the condom is removed to be disposed. Lastly, female condoms. These are disposable and require no prescription. The failure rate of female condoms is 12 to 22%.